with it. Louise, Bethany, this is amazing. Right. So I know that we're on I mustn't ramble. Okay. I know that. Okay. So we are going to look at more you in your content. Let me just share my screen right now. And hopefully thumbs up if you can all see the title of this little mini session, which is just what I said. We just want to try and put more you in the stuff that you put out there. Now, I am going to forensically unpack LinkedIn posts, but obviously the theory applies pretty much across the board. It's just that I can't pretend to be an expert on many other platforms. Really, LinkedIn's the one I've spent most time invested in. So that's it. But the theory applies, I think, to far wider places that you're going to post. So, okay, before we get to this forensic bit, let me just show what we're going to cover. 3 concepts with made up names: sweet spot of impact, vulnerability weaving, and indulgent intrigue. And I hope that's intrigued you enough to stick with it, okay? I just need to give you my squashing story, or unsquashing story, even in 60 seconds. Yes, I can't find any images that really say what I want to, so that's just a bunch of squashes. I had a portfolio career. I'm 65 next year. I'm drawing a pension, okay? So just thought I'd put that out there. My career had something in common, okay? I was a professional actor, speaker, reminiscence facilitator, and then in latter years, a funeral celebrant, believe it or not. So they all involved engaging an audience, building instant trust and rapport, and storytelling. So about 5 years ago, when I was about to turn 60, I thought, oh, I know, I'll just come out of my comfort zone and I'll set up a business as a communication coach and a keynote speaker, or whatever it was I thought I'd do. And that was when the whole thing unraveled in a rather beautiful way. So I basically didn't have to market myself in what I was doing before, because I built a reputation and it was all word of mouth. Brilliant. And now I discovered that wasn't going to work in the business world. And it was that element of it, I think, that really put me on anxiety levels. And I didn't feel like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know who I was, and I lost myself. And I was oscillating between being too actory and not being actory enough, and thinking nobody wants to know that I was an actor because that's not professional, and they'll think that I'm just, oh my God, it was agony. So I came to a little moment where I realized that this couldn't go on, because I was really demotivated and I was in fight, flight, freeze mode the whole time. And I met some people, John Asperian being one of them, Janine Coombs being another, at an event run by Mark Masters. And they encouraged me that I could bring out my actor self. Now, at this point, I'm not telling anybody here that they have to be actors. The actor thing is because that is me. Okay. So they said, of course you can be more you. Just do it, Trisha. So I took a bit of a leap, and I'm going to tell you what that leap was in a minute. And that was when my unsquashing journey began. So if you like, that's my credentials. But let me just pass on to the next slide. There's a bit of a mini one. So this just gives you a clue. These are LinkedIn posts going right back to the beginning. I was all over the place. I was sharing other people's posts. I was sharing things from Harvard Business Magazine. It was a mess. And then I actually took a photo of me doing the first event that I did, which was sort of around the topic that I now talk about, but I've evolved a lot since then. And this suddenly got a lot more comment and views. It was me, real, my thing, my kind of little badge way of putting it, if you like, my image, my brand. And then the next one I noticed after that got quite a lot of views. You can see how personal it is. It's a picture of me as my school photo. Then I even did a bit of bragging, which for me was way out of my comfort zone, but it was me receiving an award from Bournemouth University, where I am an alumni of. And so it was completely relevant. And then something quite quirky. I did some workshops and I actually dressed up in a lab coat. Now the journey had began, and the difference was that I was being more me, more recognizably someone different, maybe. And then I took this big unsquashing leap. And it really was a big leap, I have to say. I literally picked up a prop that I'd had from doing a one-woman play ages ago, this hat. In fact, I didn't even put the hat on at first. I just put the dark glasses and the trench coat. And I became Investigator Lewis, and I just did it on LinkedIn. And I thought, well, this is either do or die, basically. But I had been encouraged by these wonderful people, and it was a breakthrough. And it was from that moment on. Now, I don't do this all the time, but it was what made me memorable. And the important bit was that I wasn't just doing it to be quirky, different, shock jock, clever clogs, anything. It was so me. Okay, this was me allowing my actor self to come through, but I put a serious business message in with it too. And the viewings and the comments and the engagement and my followers absolutely leaped up. Okay, so before I try and make out that what I'm about to tell you is going to make your fortune, I need to say this. What I'm about to tell you is necessary, but not sufficient. That's a term you might have come across. In other words, I believe that this putting more you in your content is absolutely necessary for you to build your credibility, your visibility, your engagement, your quality connections, and your motivation. Very important. But that alone isn't going to make you 3-figure incomes, let alone 6-figure incomes. I can't give you the expertise on that. I am not a brilliant businesswoman. Confession time. But if I put all of the other strategies alongside this, then I would probably be right up there with I was going to say yacht, but that's not a very timely thing to say. The R behind me stands for all the things that this should bring you. You will be relatable, you will build rapport, you will resonate, you will be relevant, and importantly, you will feel real. So therefore, you will feel motivated to keep creating content, which after all can be pretty exhausting some days. So this is what kind of might pull you through when you don't feel like it, because it's you. Okay, so having given you that little journey, we'll now go into what we're talking about. Number one, the sweet spot of impact. Very simple concept, brilliant Venn diagram. It is just literally finding that overlap between your story and your message and what's going to engage your audience, what's going on in the wider world as well. If you can bring all those together, real you, real them, real world, you do hit this rather lovely sweet spot. So in other words, I am not at any point telling you to just go out and splurge yourself all over LinkedIn or any other channel. Oh God, let me tell you my life story. No, that's not what it's about. It's about everything I talk about has a conscious element to it. It's tweaked, it's contextual, it's thought through, okay? Just thought I'd put that out there. So this is one way of doing it. The other thing is vulnerability weaving, and I'm going to show you examples of all these in a minute and dissect them a bit for you. This really is more personal. It is very much weaving your personal story, but with relevant and resonant content that reveals more you without oversharing and being me, which I know people are scared of. And thirdly, indulgent intrigue. This is where you can go a bit more full out and actually just talk about something that has got nothing to do with work or your business. It's just you. It's a hobby that you had or that you're thinking of having. You're just learning to play the guitar. I don't know, you've just started collecting seashells and making ornaments out of them. I don't care. Whatever it is, or you've got a vinyl record collection that you're incredibly proud of. You're going to gigs and you're crazy about this new band. People also love to hear that, okay, because it cheers them up. They think, oh, I never knew that about you. I want to try that, or that's fascinating. And that's okay. Now, of course, you're not going to do those every day of the week, but they have their place. So don't feel you can't share any of that stuff. So let's have a look at some examples. I'm going to give you 2 of each and then 1 of the Indulgent Intrigue. So I know you're not going to, don't worry, you're not going to be able to see the copy on this, but I'm going to dissect it in the next slide. So an example of the sweet spot of impact. Now, unusually for me, I actually picked up on a LinkedIn news story, but equally this could be something you read in the news or whatever. And I actually shared it with my perspective. And it got a lot of engagement. So it was about age discrimination or something, and CVs and people hiding their age on CVs. So how did I make that relate to me and you, the audience? So as always, I started off with a thought-provoking question. How much of real you are you hiding in order to be what you feel they want? For instance, real age, real experience. And obviously real is one of my personal brand words, if you like. So this is how it unraveled in terms of being about me, about you, and about this thing that was going on in the real world. So I linked it to that article, and then I linked it to me, a personal story. I revealed that I am a granny. Okay, so no big deal. I haven't told them the whole story about my children and my entire life story, but just a little bit more information about me. And then I asked some questions. What do you think? Is there a gender difference in this age hiding thing? So, would you hire an older person? So I really put that out and engaged, wanting to connect and interested in their thoughts. I mean, it's not rocket science, as they say, but it's that finding that little sweet spot that's actually quite fun when you start to do it. Here's another one, somebody called Arno Ilner, who, if you're into rock climbing, you'll probably know him. He wrote an amazing book called The Rock Warrior's Guide, but he now does this in the sort of business world. I've actually interviewed him for my podcast. He's a real person. And so he very much has brought his rock climbing past into a relevant place here and now in the business world. And, he brings together the stuff that rock climbers go through, and then he gives this feel for resistance tip thing, which is very much relevant to the business world. And even when he does his call to action, he's doing it in his way. It's very much aligned with his personal brand. It's not pushy. It's more deep thinking. And that's just something to think about, because I think in every part of our post, we don't suddenly want to go from this is more me, this is more me. Oh, and now I'm going to do this call to action line that somebody told me is really good at the end. Whoa, jolt, break of trust. So be consistent. And here's another example. This is a post that I put on. This is vulnerability weaving we're into now. What do I mean by that? You can see it's a very personal photo. It's my mother and my 2 kids who are now, in their 30s. And I did share something quite personal here, but I didn't overindulge and tell my whole life story. So I started off with something that I think anybody would be familiar with. A photo is a nanosecond of existence. We rarely know the full, unfiltered, imperfect story. So if you like, that's a bit thought-provoking, above the crease, to get people to read more. And so now I bring in some real me, non-business experience shared. And I said, and that was the case even before perfect social media presented world. This is my mum and 2 youngest children. This was merely weeks. Here's the big bit of vulnerability. This was merely weeks after I fled an abusive, narcissistic husband. I was being a mum with some help from my mum, with whom I had a delicately balanced relationship. I was still finding it hard to leave my husband of 7 years despite what he had done. The start of a challenging new phase, but I'm here to tell the tale. Never assume imperfect is real. That is a majorly vulnerable piece of information sharing, but I've done it in such a way that I've kind of made it relevant to other people. I don't know who might read this. I know I'm not alone in having had this experience. So it might just catch somebody and think, oh, wow, this person will understand me. But that's not why I was doing it. I wasn't doing it as a come to me to talk about surviving narcissistic abuse. I was doing it to kind of remind people that we never really know what's going on behind the picture. Don't do that comparisonitis thing. Don't think everybody's world is perfect. But I managed to sneak a little bit more information about me in there. I think you're getting the gist now of how this works. And here's a much more cheerful one. This was me having breakfast with my youngest son, who's now 27. And I also shared that despite saying I'm vegan, I'm having smoked salmon and scrambled egg. So that's my humor coming out. Let me see how we dissected this. Created intrigue at the top. Who took the photo? And is this yet another trigger for the should be on Facebook tribe? So I clicked into something that was being talked about a lot on LinkedIn at that time, which was, oh, this shouldn't be on LinkedIn. This is a Facebook kind of a post. And I sort of took the mickey out of it a bit, but also I knew that would resonate because I know a lot of people who are the kind of people that I connect with actually do think that we can put more personal stuff out there and it's not banned from LinkedIn. So I was resonating with them. Real world, I gave a shout out to a local business. And yeah, just a little bit of a thought provoker. Point of the post obviously needs to be to do with business to take it from Facebook to LinkedIn. Let me think. Support your community, shake things up sometimes, and look forward to the day when the kids pick up the bill. Now, that was just me being me because I do have a sense of humor, but it also showed people the sort of my mother side, if you like. And yeah, did a bit of vulnerability weaving there. Indulgent Intrigue. This is one where you've got to connect with this guy called Liam Toms. You can see in the image, he's got a host of little tickets from gigs. This is one of his absolute nerdy, full-on passions. So he's a great example. He shared a sort of human challenge. He was going through writer's block because he does blog writing. But then he kind of shared the fact that he'd started working through his ticket box in date order and would use them as a prompt to write on the days which correspond with that on the ticket. I mean, it's just so beautifully nerdy. And in fact, the company he works with is techie, nerdy in vibe as well. So it is still bringing an element of that resonating thing with his tribe and what he does, but it's pure, full on, his thing, his passion, his obsession. He even talks about the fact he's now starting out with photography as a hobby as well. And he does give you a link to his blog, which tells the story behind all his collections. He collects vinyls, he's into Star Wars, you name it. So you can see how you can be sort of indulgent, but without it being, oh God, boring. Oh, they're so up themselves. Or who needs to know that on here? And I hope you can see that anyway. So the next steps, because I want to leave time for some questions, to put it simplistically, are these. Now, this is really important because it's all very well. I mean, I'm 65 next year. I have so many stories. I mean, help that I've on my third marriage. I've got 3 kids and I've had quite a few different jobs. But honestly, you don't need to have done all that. You have a mass of stories, even if you're only 20 and your life has been fairly straightforward, but you need to go and mine the stories. Okay. You need to actually consciously go for a walk or sit somewhere quiet with a notepad and pen and start going all the way through, almost from your childhood through to school days, to first romances, to music gigs, to whatever it is. And start thinking of the little stories. It doesn't have to be the big dramatic stuff. And then unpack the links, step 2. Just see where you can find the analogies and the relevant links back to that sweet spot stuff, to your business, your message, your audience. It's a really good game, by the way, and it will really motivate you because this is fun. All right. It's not drudgery. You're not, oh God, I got to do another post today. Oh, I've got to schedule 5 posts for next week. This is good fun. Okay. And you'll discover things about yourself as well, because you think, I never realized that taught me the lesson about this that's now relevant to that. And then go unleash on LinkedIn or wherever. You feel inspired now. So you're way more likely to post. You're even more likely to do a video because you feel that this is relevant, it's going to resonate, and you've got you in it, and that's going to motivate you. So you can also, of course, repurpose. Once you've got these stories, you can bring them into an article, to a blog, to a video, to a podcast, whatever it is. Okay, mix it up. But it's making you a little bit more kind of recognizable. It's not about shouty stuff, because I'm so not a shouty, salesy person. I happen to be able to do the kind of this stuff without too much problem, because that happens to be my skill set for decades as an actor and a speaker. That's me. That's not you necessarily. That's me. So no, I am not telling you to go and dress up and do silly things. I'm telling you to find the thing that is you. And at all stages, this is very important to close on before I look and see if we've got any nice questions. There's all my resources. If just Trisha Lewis Talk, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I'm almost encouraged to do TikTok after listening to Daniela earlier on, but I don't want to publicize that at the moment. I have a podcast called Make It Real. We're on episode 111, so loads of goodies for you to unpack there. And obviously the book, which is back to front, The Mystery of the Squashed Self. And the point is, this is real stuff. These are the real weird things we do inside our heads that keep us squashed, so that we are not showing up and sharing as us, basically. And if I just said to you, oh, just be you, be true to yourself, that would be so trite and useless. I would deserve to be sacked. It's just not as simple as that. It's not, you've got to find you. You've got to find those links. And then you've got to step by step, carefully, drip by drip, start weaving that stuff in and really feel your way as you go. But you do need to do it. It's necessary, but not sufficient. You still got to do the call to actions and all the businessy stuff and all your CRMs and all that malarkey as well. But I hope that has at least, if nothing else, motivated you. And I'm going to come back. By the way, in my expo booth, there is a complimentary power up for grabs. You just have to register your interest and you'll be there. Right. I don't want my screen anymore. Right. Escape. I just want to come back to me. There I am.
Hello. Sorry, I jumped on to help, but now I will disappear again.
That's all right. I'm a quick learner. So anyway, chat. I've not been keeping up. So does anybody want to come on camera and ask things and say things? And by the way, I'm still recovering from COVID and the operation to remove my basal carcinoma here. So, I deserve some kind of a medal probably for just being here now. I'm joking. Or am I? But I'm really pleased to have made it today. I wouldn't have done the day before yesterday, I don't think. So, oh look, I got a medal from somebody. That's nice. So helpful. Thank you. Yeah, the light box, Richard. Yeah, but it's back to front, isn't it? So but thanks. TikTok was made for Trisha. Well, Emily Braithwaite has already told me that, and I have been very bad because I have said, no, I'm not going to, because I don't want to dress up in silly things and do dances. But now I realize that's very, very small-minded of me. Danielle, exactly. I need to just have an attitude change.
Trisha, sorry to jump on. I thought there was a fab question from Anna.
I'm looking
I too suffer from sort of bad memory.
Find it.
I don't know. I can't pin it up.
Anna.
There we go. I've pinned it to the top.
There we go. From your experience in reminiscence, do you have any tips for people with bad memories remembering stories from their lives? That's a great, fabulous question. Yeah, I was talk to me. I have magic powers when it comes to getting triggering, because this is really difficult. Okay, so apart from talking to me, which is an option, is how I do it when I visit families to talk about their loved ones who's just died. I am triggering stories from them. It's how I did it with the reminiscence, and it is something that you have to do very gently, because if you force it, and I guess this would be the same if you're doing it on your own, if you force it, it won't come. So that's why I'm talking about going for a walk with maybe with your phone and your voice recorder, and just literally just skittling through, like skipping through a field of memories, maybe chronologically, if you can, because maybe that gives it some structure. You think, school, what happened at school? What happened at school? Why did I hate that girl? Why did I? Just little things, just little things. And then they trigger something else. Or that first holiday I went on with my parents, and I got sick. And it might seem inconsequential, but the act of going into that place gradually builds that picture, and you sort of enter that scene more, and then something else occurs. You could, that's I think what I'm doing when I'm trying to or I used objects, of course, a lot in reminiscence. So I actually had I don't know whether you could do that yourself. That's interesting. Photos. It's the same thing, isn't it? Or music. Music is incredibly, my husband and I, because we're a bit weird like this, do a 70s music quiz with each other every weekend. It's so romantic, and because we're both of a similar age, and 70s was when we were in our disco days, and so many from 16, so rich the memories. If you can plunder that, you'll probably kick something off in here, because that's when all the high emotions were bad, good, but high emotions, 16, 17, 18, 19. And music will often bring those things back and take you to an actual time and place. Smell almost, So you could use little tricks like photos and music, or even flicking through a book that you might have had as a kid. So that's the object thing. Or being in nature might remind you of being somewhere in nature at some other time. But it can be from way back when, or from a few weeks ago. But that's why you need to have a notepad and pen or your voice recorder with you, kind of at all times, because this is what happens when you're out and about with nothing to capture it. So capture it.
I'm always forgetting stuff. I'm like, I must write that down. And then by the time I get back, I've forgotten.
Little notepad and pen. That's what you need. Just a little mini one. Or your voice recorder. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know who's coming up next. Who's coming up next? I'm supposed to announce, aren't I? Oh God, that's embarrassing.
Fine, I'm hovering in the background, discussing myself crying actually in the chat, Trisha. So 3 to 3:30 is all about networking. So James and Kelly are Only Networking, one of our fab sponsors for the event. So we've set up, rather than having a 5th main stage speaker this year, we've decided to encourage everyone to go in networking. Now, we understand, for those in here, the 30 odd of you in here, that not everyone likes it, but come and give it a go. There's some cool stuff on the right. If you're into gadgety tech stuff like me, on the right hand side, you get to connect with people and all sorts. So we'd love to see you in there. And Trisha, you were fab as always. And so thank you so blimmin' much. All right. See you next week.
Don't forget to go into my booth, people.
Yes. And then after that is booths as well. See you in a bit. Bye.